Welcome to Dunwich TV, welcome to Laguna Seca, Rennsport Reunion 7. Just a little off-the-cuff video really, because this right here is proper Porsche history, and that car alone, to my mind, has been worth the plane ticket to come to the west coast of the United States. It's actually the second oldest surviving 911 of all time, with more on the first very shortly. So you may remember the story of the 911 where it was 901 originally, launched in September 1963. The first production 901s didn't start until a year later, September 1964. Prior to that, Porsche made 13 prototype chassis to test various bits and pieces. Engine, chassis, crash testing, for example. Many of them have been lost over the years. There's actually only 2 chassis remaining of those 13 original prototypes. This is number 7. For years, this chassis 7 was the earliest known 911 prototype, but then chassis 6 was found to be owned by one Alois Roof in 2019. That car is affectionately known as Quick Blau and has many of its own unique features, including an interior ventilation slider, an interior handle on the A-pillar, and all 12 digits visible on the dashboard clock, as production cars only had 3, 6, 9 and 12. Chassis 6 is the oldest known 911 prototype, but chassis 7 is not far behind it at all, and represents pure 911 Genesis. Let's take a look at it in closer detail. At face value, you might just think this is an early 911 or 901, but actually there's a lot of Easter eggs around the car that highlight the deviations from what you and I know as production 911 or 901 spec. We'll go and take a quick look at some of them. I'll start, if Max wouldn't mind following, and this guy's found it already. So, the oil filler is circular rather than like the more squared off production version. That's a big giveaway that this is a prototype and not a production 911, okay? The sunroof isn't open at the moment, but I'll chuck some B-roll in. Instead of a slide back job, it's more of a tilt. If Max is able to see inside, it might be difficult, but you can see there's a 356 steering wheel. What we now know as the 911's iconic 5 dials on the dashboard, they've not been invented yet. There's only 2 dials there. There's a weird ventilation system that feeds air from the dash to the door. That never made it to production either. There's no ignition to the left of the steering wheel either, as has become customary on production 911s. Here, the ignition is on the steering wheel column. And due to the door not matching up correctly with the A-pillar when closed, I hope you can see there a small alloy spacer was added. There are channels inserted from the roof down here, some like water exit channels, which that never made it to production. On the deck lid, the Porsche script is very small. That's actually taken from the rump of a 356. It's worth pointing out while we're at the back of the car, you might see the twin exit tailpipes. Of course, that definitely was not original 911 spec. We just had a single exit exhaust on 911s right the way up until the 993 of 1993. I'll fill you in on the story of the engine at this point. So the engine in there is matching. It's the 130 horsepower, naturally aspirated 2-litre flat 6 that was fitted to eventual production 911s. It's on the Solex carbs. You may remember after a couple of years, Porsche ditched Solex in favour of Weber because they were more reliable. Some other gems in the engine bay include its spring-loaded deck lid, the lack of indentation along the slam panel where the stickers would usually go, as well as several extensions of the oil filler tube, rather amusingly, in a classic case of trial and error from the testers of the time. Maybe Max can see around here as well. There's no trim underneath the doors. What you probably won't be able to see, but you're going to have to take my word for it, is proportionally this car is slightly different as well. It's 2 inches shorter than a production 911 and it's slightly narrower as well. Now again, it's probably going to be difficult to pick that up. So if you're looking down the side, the form of the car is slightly different. It's more of a straight drop on the doors and panels. Production 911s, 901s, slightly more curvaceous. This is owned by a chap called Don Maluzio. He's owned the car for 40 years, found the car in a lot. It was in a hell of a state. He's had it recommissioned many years ago. It's been proven by the factory after much consultation between Don and the archive to prove that this is actually a prototype. And the giveaway that it was a prototype, the museum had to contact an old worker that remembered the sunroof. This has got a unique sunroof rather than a slide back electric sunroof that the production cars made. It's a tilt sunroof, and it was that big giveaway that was able to reveal this car as a prototype. The reason it wasn't clear when it was a prototype is when Don found the car, he realised it had a 5-digit chassis number. Early 911s had a 6-digit. Again, after dialogue with the museum, its provenance was confirmed. And so here we are, here we have it. Proper Porsche history, and it's a genuine privilege to see it here at Rennsport Reunion 7.